Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode number 244 of the SoxProspects.com podcast. We're the web's number one source for information on the Boston Red Sox from top to bottom, from Fort Myers to Worcester, across the Pike to Fenway, and all stops in between. Thank you for listening. My name is Chris Hatfield, and I am the executive editor of Sox Prospects, and I'm joined as always by our director of scouting, a man who sneezes from viewing my cat through the Zoom screen, Ian Kundle. Ian, we are in full swing of the minor league season. We've got stuff to talk about on field at each affiliate. We've completed the first full week of the minor league season, and I guess we'll keep it. We'll try and focus on field. We've got some off field, unfortunately, to talk about too up in Boston, but it's just nice to have regular April baseball again. I don't know. It's after the last 2 years, I'm just happy that things are back to kind of normal.
Yeah, I mean, it is. It's definitely nice. It feels like, we're in the swing of things. We got box scores of every affiliate each night. There's obviously major league games going, except for when like every Northeast game gets rained out, like yesterday, right. Or today, where wasn't Worcester snowed out?
Worcester got snowed out in Syracuse today. We're recording on Tuesday night, the 19th. Oof. Yeah. It's
yikes,
big yikes, as you like to say.
Yeah, no, it's been nice to have baseball back and starting to, with the I really enjoy the combo of April baseball plus the NBA playoffs and the close of the football season it's a nice little trio we got going on right now.
Yeah,
and hockey too, if you like that. Not for me, but
just to make sure, when you say the football season, you are talking about
the sport that's played with your feet.
Okay.
I mean,
just making sure.
Yeah.
I was confused for a hot second there, but yes.
Yes. Did you see that they just put Whitlock in the close?
No, did they?
Yeah.
Awesome.
I mean, he's just, yeah. I mean, we'll talk about that, but yeah.
We will. Well, we'll talk. We've got comings and goings in Boston. We've got the return of COVID. For those of you, not to make this political or anything, but for those of you who thought COVID was done, Major League Baseball COVID IL lists have another story to tell you, and the Red Sox are not immune. So, despite their attempts to be so, we'll have Red Sox comings and goings. Not too many transactions down on the farm yet, so not much to talk about there. But we're gonna talk about Ian seeing the Worcester Red Sox. We're gonna talk about what's going on at each level. We'll check some levels again today, and of course, we'll get to your emails if we want to talk about what you want to hear about. So you can hit us up there, and we'll get to those emails later on. But first, of course, we want to mention, if you want to support the show, you can do that a couple of ways. First, you can rate and review us on whatever podcatcher or app you use to listen to the show. You can tell a friend, spread the word about the show, Twitter, Facebook, whatever. You got a friend who likes the Red Sox, mention the show, tell them they'll like it. And of course, if you want to support the show, you can support us on patreon.com/Sox Prospects. Pledge a certain amount per episode and get some neat perks to go along with it, such as the Patreon game updates, where I by the time this goes live, I will have finished uploading the spring training game updates, and Ian maybe will have a game update from seeing Worcester last week at home in their opening series. So we'll get that up for you as well. I uploaded some neat stuff from our season opening rankings, our personal top 20s, personal top 20s, I think. And then prospects 61 to 70 are up there for our patrons to view. So depending on what level you're at, you get different perks. So check it out. But Ian, let's jump right into it. COVID ain't over, unfortunately. And that has led to some interesting roster machinations for the Red Sox. We knew that they were going to have to do some things when they played Toronto. We just thought that was going to be next week when they go across the border and they couldn't bring some players with them. Unfortunately, a week early, the Red Sox had to put 3 players on the COVID-related injured list. That being both of their catchers, Christian Vasquez and Kevin Plawecki, as well as utility backup infielder Jonathan Aruz. Replacing them, of course, are the AAA catcher combination of Connor Wong and Ronaldo Hernandez, as well as AAA pitcher Tyler Danish. So the Red Sox, no, they also called up, I almost forgot. They also selected the roster outfielder Rob Refsnyder to fill out the bench. Really, I kind of like that because it actually gives them a late inning defensive replacement out there who's not Jackie Bradley. or not a late inning defensive replacement, but a guy who can play outfield for games when Christian Arroyo is out there as well. So another outfield option, not a bad thing. And then Tyler Danish replaced Rich Hill. I don't know who Rob Hill is, but Rich Hill, who just went on the bereavement list because of, as many know from reading the beat reporters, Rich Hill's father died recently, so he'll be gone for a couple days. So anyway, Ian, I mean, the most interesting part of this to me is the tandem of Connor Wong and Ronaldo Hernandez getting some run in Boston.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because I'm assuming the Red Sox were not planning on having this be their battery at any point this season.
No.
But obviously with COVID, things like this are going to happen. And I do think it's a little interesting. I was thinking about it. I was like, is there anyone else they could call up other than Hernandez? Because it's not exactly a duo I would want. But I was looking about it and it's like, yeah, no, not really. Like, unless they wanted
could.
Well, the person, if they were just going to do pure defense to me, would be Eli Marrero. You just go down to Double A and bring him up. But I think that when they've got two guys on the 40, like, I guess that's what they just decided to stick with. I'm not convinced we will see Hernandez catch a game. I'll be honest.
No, I think so. Wong is catching today and tomorrow, and I think they said Hernandez might catch after that.
Oh, really? Oh, God, that's going to be
maybe. I mean, we'll see. I mean, the thing is that it depends how long Vasquez and Plawecki are out, because since both of them are vaccinated, they can basically test off of
it can be less than 10 days. Yeah. So
they can we'll see. Fewer than 10 days, and they're hoping to get everybody back quickly because everyone who went on the IL is vaccinated.
And I think why we're seeing obviously that Wong is going to get the majority of the playing time, though, is that he's obviously the far superior defender. Like,
yep.
I saw him play. I saw him catch in, last week or whatever, opening day when I was there. And yeah, I like him behind the plate. He moves well, athletic, receives pretty well. Good. His hands work, arm's okay. It's not a standout arm. Hernandez, on the other hand, has by far the best arm of the two of them.
Yep.
But the other parts of Hernandez's game are really raw. So I think that Wong, and I think he showed it last year. I think was it Eovaldi who he caught like a really impressive start of last year
in Boston.
Yeah, I think it was Eovaldi, and I remember the coaching staff gave him praised him a lot after the game for the way he handled it. And I think they're definitely comfortable with him. I think the fact that they didn't go out and sign, a true backup. Obviously, they signed David Gurriel, who just showed up, I think, last week or something.
He's played one game, and that was the point I made, is that you would almost rather that Gurriel be the guy who gets called up to be the backup, because you don't care if Gurriel gets playing time.
Yeah.
Whereas Ronaldo Hernandez, if he comes up and doesn't play, that's not great. Although getting a little bit of exposure to the major league level, probably not a bad thing.
Yeah. I also think that Gurriel just wasn't probably game ready. Like, exactly. As you said, he played one game. So with Wong, obviously they're comfortable with him. And I think that this is a good test for him, because obviously the Red Sox need to figure out a catching succession plan. Vasquez isn't going to be around forever. I think he's a free agent. What is it, after this year?
After this year. Yep.
So they need to see it. Is Wong someone who, I don't think he's an everyday guy, but I think he could be like a serviceable, like fringe backup. Mm-hmm. You just have to know that he's not going to hit very well. I mean, and I think it's this year he's off to an okay start at the plate. He's like 250, 294. Like, that's kind of what he is. He's not going to hit for a lot of power. Like, he'll run into the occasional home run. It's going to be a low OBP.
Well, he also really missed a lot of time with a decent amount of time.
Yeah, he had like a hand injury, right?
I didn't know. No, it was a leg injury.
Was it a leg? I just know that just having seen him, he doesn't walk. Like, it's a very aggressive approach. He's going up there to hit, a lot of swing and miss. But yeah, I mean, I think he can hold down the fort for a few days. The Hernandez game, I'm a little more concerned about, just having seen him catch. It's not very pretty. And I mean, I didn't see him this spring, so maybe he's in better shape, and that was definitely a concern I had in the past, was the body was a little soft and it wasn't the most agile behind the plate. But I mean, you could probably get away with it for a game or two. And I think that
Wong is only
make it work.
Wong only has 4 starts entering tonight. So he hasn't played a whole lot yet this season. So 16 at bat sample. But that said, I mean, your point stands. It's not like he's a guy you're coming up and expecting him to hit. You just hit him ninth and just tell him catch. Like, any offense you get out.
I mean, he had the game-winning RBI today. There
you go. Otherwise, I mean, not a whole lot to talk about the major league level, Ian. We did, James did mention in the Slack that Red Sox first basemen have been atrocious.
So far. It's making me wonder, because I mean, we'll get to. I saw Tristan Casas.
Well, let's just talk about it. Let's just say
I saw him.
How long do they wait to break glass, man? Like, Dahlbeck is not doing a great job of holding him back.
I honestly would not be surprised if by May 1st he's up.
He could.
I don't think he has anything left. And this is not me being like, I don't know what he has left to learn at the AAA level. And let me explain why. His approach is so good for someone his age that like he like out-umps the umpires. It's unbelievable. Like he knows the strike zone better than the umpires. I'm pretty convinced of it. There was one there was like a pitch that at the game I was at, and the game I was at, he hit a ball that was probably one of the furthest home runs I've ever seen in person. It was 477.
Oh, you were at the 477 game?
Yeah, I had the video with the bat flip. Yeah,
that's right. You did post that. That's right.
But I think he walked 3 times in that game, and one of them he literally like was calling the pitches for the umpire. It was hilarious. Like he's like, no, that's not a strike. He was just shaking his head as soon as it crossed the plate, and he was right every time.
Yeah,
and it's just like if you look at it, he's got an 18% walk rate, 18% K rate this year, and that's something that I think that's one of the things that actualizes like the quickest of the statistics.
Oh, his walk rate last year was 19.
Exactly.
Across
so like
both levels.
I almost wonder if he would benefit from facing major league pitching who like actually throw strikes in a weird way, because he doesn't chase ever. And so like, he's just walking a ton. I think he has 9 walks in like how many games have they played? Like 9 games.
He has played 11 games.
He's played 11 games and he has 9 walks.
Yeah. 50 plate appearances. He has 9 walks.
Yeah. And like, I just kind of wonder, like, would he be someone, and would it be better to expose him to major league pitching in the sense that even if he fails at first, it shows him what to expect. And then if they want to send him down, like fine. But I mean, he's hitting what, 280, 430, 580 this year or something around that.
282, 420, 282 batting average, 420 on base, 564 slugging. I mean, the one number I'll throw out there is 92. That is the number of plate appearances he has at the AAA level. That feels
but at the same time, like,
but it's not.
Look at Spencer Torkelson.
Well, that's what I'm going to say.
Spencer Torkelson. Look at Julio Rodriguez. Like teams are being more aggressive with their players.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say. Is I don't think it's not like it's 20.
No.
Right. It's not like he's had one good series.
No.
I didn't realize he got 42 plate appearances last year, 50 this year.
Well, it's because remember the AAA season went to the almost October last year. That's why. Yeah,
and we just kind of forgot. Oh, because they didn't decide to do it till like
they decided like in August. They're like, oh yeah, by the way, the AAA season is going till the end of like October or the end of September. It's like, oh okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
But like I just think that first base is a run production position, and right now, Red Sox first baseman, as you mentioned earlier, James brought it up in our just group chat, like 125, 186, 225. When you're carrying Jackie Bradley and Christian Vasquez, who are more or less like they're there for the defense. It's tough to have a third guy who's just not getting any production out of.
Well, especially when it's the first baseman, like you said.
Exactly. And
like
if you look at the Red Sox lineup also, another lefty would be very useful in balancing things out. Like, because right now they're running, like if you could get Casas in, I just think that it allow you to push Verdugo if they wanted to higher in the order, but I don't think they do that. I think they probably push Story higher in the order, if anything. But yeah, I just think that I don't think it's like imminent. I don't think it's necessarily going to happen, but I would not be surprised at all if it did, if that makes sense. Like, I don't think the Red Sox are going to, and I think if they did do it, it wouldn't be a reactionary thing. It would be we think he's ready. It's not well, we're struggling at first base. Let's, throw something against the wall and see if it sticks. Like this would be, we have our convictions. We're ready. We've talked to all our roving instructors. We've talked to the coaches. We've talked to our dev guys, and they all say, yes, he's ready. It would not be like a forced thing. And
I agree. I think it would not strike me as panic for him to come up.
No, like if they call him up, it's because they think he's ready to come up and be the impact player that he could be. And and I want to go back to that home run. Like it was one of the most ridiculous things I've ever seen. And I had a feeling it was coming. I got my camera out because I was sitting behind home plate and I was like, this pitcher's not good. And he's throwing cookies. And it just felt like Casas was kind of, he seemed like a little frustrated that he's just walking, got intentionally walked in the game. And it was like, all right, let's see what we got. And yeah, like fastball right down, like middle up, just he knew it immediately. He admired it for a bit. And then he just did this very casual, like little flick of the bat after a few steps while walking with his bat. And the sound, it's another, I mean, I've talked about it in the past with guys like Devers, Bogarts, Moncada, like ball sounds different coming off his bat. When he hits a home run, it's just like, it's one of those, it's kind of, you know, one of those special sounds that you hear at a baseball game that sticks with you. And yeah, I also think it would be interesting just to see, you know, maybe it gives a little boost to some of the other offensive guys who are struggling. You know, you get a new guy in the lineup, kind of motivates, gets everyone going, gets a little buzz back in the park. So I think it would be very interesting to see if it does happen anytime soon. But at the same time, like, and if it does, I wouldn't say it's a reflection of Dahlbeck either. Obviously, him struggling would have contributed to it, but I still think that he has a role on this team. And I just think that the way he's being used right now is not the best role for him to succeed. Like Dahlbeck is someone to me that not all players are meant to get 600 to 700 at bats or plate appearances a year. There are certain guys who I think that to maximize their value, you only want limited exposure to them. You only want them getting 300-400 plate appearances a year. And I think Dahlbeck kind of falls in that camp. Like another good example to me is someone like Dylan Moore with the Mariners. Dylan Moore is good defender, crushes lefties, cannot hit righties to save his life. Mariners don't play him against righties at all. Like just don't even consider it. And he's okay against, he can hit a lefties a little bit and, you know, not playing against righties. He keeps his numbers, you know, respectable. I mean, last year they weren't, I think 2 years ago was better, but there's certain guys like that. And I think Dahlbeck kind of falls in that camp where I think he could be more successful and more helpful to the team if he was getting fewer at bats and playing against primarily lefties, but he also can play, you know, first base. Maybe they try him at second base. Maybe they try him in right field, like playing him at multiple positions and getting, you know, 350, 400 bats. I think that his overall production could be better in that role. So like whatever he's doing, plus the additional couple hundred at bats at first base from whoever's replacing him would be better than just giving it all to Dahlbeck, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. If I could just throw one thing out there about Casas though, and you know, when you look at the AAA lineup, and this is a point that I think deserves to be mentioned for everything we talk about on this episode and anything we talk about this time of year, with the way the minor league season now runs, where you are playing week-long series against the same team, you need to be careful. You need to look at where the series is being played and who the opposing team is, because you're going to get things like the entire Greenville lineup is smashing the ball right now, which is great. And they're good prospects down there. But it's also in part because they were just playing in a bandbox in Asheville. That's, you know, a extremely hitter-friendly park.
Against a team with a very bad pitching staff.
Exactly. When you look at the Worcester Red Sox, they have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14 hitters who have 10 or more plate appearances. Okay. 14 hitters with 10 or more plate appearances. They have 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 hitters who have an 873 OPS or higher of the, what did I say? 14. Like that's a lot. That's a pretty good number. They've got 1, 2, 3, 4 guys who have at least 3 home runs right now. In, you know, 11 games basically. So
they were coming off a really high scoring series against Lehigh Valley, where the wind was Worcestering a lot, as we'll get to when we talk more about that game. Like there were a couple pop-ups that were home runs by Fitzgerald and Yolmer Sanchez. And
and so it's
what happens,
you know, and that's with like, you know, Johan Miesis has played 3 games and has 2 homers. Like, you know, I mean, Franchi is doing Franchi stuff. Roberto Ramos has 3 bombs in 8 games. And that's basically all he's done is hit the 3 home runs. He's got 5 hits.
He has 4.
Yeah, Fitzgerald has 4 home runs in 9 games because he had to sit out a few as a close contact after Duran went on the IL with COVID. So it's not great. You have to look at the other peripherals. You know what I mean? Like strikeout rate, like you were talking about. Okay, look at the other guys. Ryan Fitzgerald has 15 strikeouts in, let's see,
33 at bats or 36 plate appearances.
36 plate appearances. not great. Sorry, 37 plate appearances.
Oh, you got hit once. Yeah, he got hit once. I was at the game when he got hit. Yeah, you're right.
He's been hit by a pitch. Yeah. You got to look at that K rate because let me actually
Jeter Downs is another one.
Yeah, I mean, some of them are just not great. Ryan Fitzgerald has a 40% K percentage. Franchi Cordero, 32%. So when you're looking at things like, oh, the guy has a lot of home runs, Jeter Downs, 44%. Yeah. But then, the ones who are doing well, Rob Refsnyder's down at 16%. Okay, his stuff might be a little more real. Casas at 18%. Yolmer Sanchez at 15%. You got to kind of look at that to see what's real or not. And again, you got to give these numbers time to regress to the mean for a team to run into a good pitching staff, for a pitching staff to run into a good lineup, for the park factors to even out.
Well, and that was actually, I was having this conversation with a scout earlier today about what to take away from like statistics of players so far this year. And their general rule is that for the first 2 months until about June, in-person looks trump everything. And this includes like the advanced analytics, the models, everything, because all that data, you need enough samples to normalize. Like if you have a couple games where a guy has a couple, weak ground outs on the infield, that's going to destroy his like exit velo numbers or like his hard hit rate, things like that. And so, teams will focus on the in-person looks for those first couple of months. And then when it comes to the summer is when you say, okay, now let's look at the computers. What are the models telling us? What is the data telling us of guys that we need to now go get more looks at to check what's going on? Because something's, this guy's got a much higher hard hit rate, or this guy's got a much better, this guy's, numbers look a lot better than we were expecting. Like, why is that? Now we'll go send it out. So that's why, as you said, like contacts is so important because even, one series could change everything for a guy's fortunes this early when when they're only 10, 15, 20 games into the season.
For sure. But yeah, I'm looking forward to see what they do with Casas. It's almost like you wonder, like, was it a mistake not to bring him up to start the year and potentially get draft pick compensation?
Well, so can't they still get it though if he finishes like high in the rookie of the year? I thought there were two separate ones. I thought there were two separate ones. There's like
the other one you are thinking of is he gets a full year of service time.
Oh, that's not good then. I mean, it's good for him, but it's not good for the Red Sox.
Right.
I thought
you get the draft pick to reward you for keeping the.
So they had to be on the opening day roster.
I think so. I think so.
Let me check. Because I thought there were two different like levels of rewards.
No, because that's the thing. That's what I'm saying is like if you finish in the like awards voting, in the rookie of the year voting, no matter when you came up, you get a full year of service time. So that's the incentive to call the guy up. Because it's like, if the guy's good and he's going to finish in the top 2 in the rookie of the year voting or something, then the guy's going to get the full year of service time. So anyway, looking elsewhere around the farm system in the meantime, while you look that up, Ian, not a whole lot else to talk about. Josh Taylor started a rehab assignment in Worcester, so it looks like he's working his way back. Although it seems like he's going to get a decent amount of time down there. Edward Brazardo, a guy who we talked about last episode a fair amount, cleared waivers and was outrighted to Worcester. And I think that one's really just an example of them, like we talked about last episode. I think they kind of hit him and snuck him through successfully because he didn't throw it all in spring training. He threw the one game.
I
think they knew it was coming.
I think so too. I think that, and with the way, as we talked about, I think we talked about in the last episode, the 40-man was pretty imbalanced.
Yeah.
Getting him off is very important, and keeping him in the organization is definitely good because it gives them a spot to play with.
Oh, so. Sure. Yeah. I mean, get him off of the 40-man. It'll be, it's good because he sticks around. I'm sure he'll be up later in the year. They are not sure. Let me rephrase.
I mean,
possibility he's up. I think he's up later in the year.
They have a lot of good, they have a lot of good right-handed relievers in the high minors.
I'll do, but it's worth mentioning that Derek Holland, Tyler Danish, and Michael Feliz all have opt-outs. So come July, all 3 could be out. So that's 3 guys you take off of the depth chart right there. So we'll see how that plays out. Otherwise, Ian, not a whole lot to discuss transactions wise. So do you want to talk about Worcester and what you saw there? We kind of segued in a little bit when you're talking about
sure.
I guess let's say offensively, what else did you see that caught your eye? Anyone else who stood out as top performers? How many games did you get to in Western?
I just got to opening day so far.
Okay, you got the one game. Okay.
Yeah. I'm hoping I'll get more on the next homestand. That was just a tough schedule. And hopefully I'll be able to get some Portland stuff this weekend. That's my plan as well. Because they've got a very solid opposition, as we saw tonight, which I'm sure we'll talk about when we talk about Portland a little bit. But yeah, I mean, Costas was clearly the standout. Like, he's by far the best player on the field there. And that was both teams. Like, the other team, by the way, was hilarious. Listen to some of these names in their lineup. Jorge Bonifacio. You remember him?
God, yeah.
Roman Quinn, Yairo Munoz, old friend, John Andrioli, who they had John Andrioli involved in the pregame ceremonies, which I thought was great. Because isn't he from he's from that area, isn't he?
He's from Worcester. Yeah.
Exactly. So yeah, so that was it was not the best lineup, I'll just say.
A lot of familiar names in that lineup.
Yeah, but Costas was by far the best. I think the other ones to talk about are Jeter Downs.
Jeter, yeah.
It wasn't great.
44% K rate so far this year.
He was 1 for 5 with 3 strikeouts. And I think the thing that to me is, and this was, I watched a lot of it. I was kind of jumping around. There were a lot of people there, and I didn't really feel like sitting behind the plate. So I was watching a lot of open side at bats because I like that angle to kind of get some looks at like the swing mechanics and things like that. And I think the thing that, and this was, I was watch back the video I got of Downs, is his timing just seems off.
Yeah,
you sent us some videos. He's getting his leg down way too late. Like it's just the ball is like already in motion, and he's not even done with his load, and he just like it seems like he's hesitant, like he's not comfortable with his swing or his stance right now. And I think that could be something because he switched it right at the end of spring training when we were down there. He opened it up and went into this leg kick. So I think he's kind of caught in between what he wants to do with his mechanics at the plate. And he just seems, as I said, very hesitant and timid, and he's letting the pitcher control at bats. He's not controlling at bats. He's expanding the zone against pitches he shouldn't. He can't hit a fastball above his hands to save his life still, which was the same issue we saw last year. And it's concerning. I want to say, like, I'm not closing the book on it. This can be, this is there. It could be fixed potentially. But it's concerning to me that we're now, in year, 2 of this, and it's still an issue. And it's the same concerns we had last year. Well,
and he didn't strike me as a guy who was setting the world on fire at the alt site in 2020 either.
No, nothing really stood out that much. Yeah. It wasn't like, what we saw with Costas, Durant, or even Nick York when York showed up at the end.
Right. So when Nick York rolls in and he's like just been drafted and he looks better than the top 100 old guy.
Yeah,
that you traded for it. That's not a good look.
It's definitely concerning, and I don't know what they do about it. I thought he needed a day off, but like if you look when he's making contact, like his batted ball outcomes are okay. Like he has a couple home runs. I think he's hitting like 230, 240 on the year. I don't know if you have it up.
Yeah, on the year, Downs is hitting 233, but like with a 298 on base. I mean, when he hits it hard. It's a 419
that's what I mean.
Slugging.
But
he's got 2 home runs and 2 doubles and 10 hits.
It's the problem is just you can't 44% K rate. Just
21 strikeouts in 10 games. Like he's averaging more than 2 strikeouts a game.
And I was tracking swing and misses. And he had like how many was it? He had like 8 swing and misses in this one game. That's a lot. Like Stephen Kwan's not going to have that many whiffs until like the All-Star break. Like it's just one of those things that when the numbers look not great, but it's also when you see him in person, it's tough. But I just think there has to be like he's got they have to be. They know the issues. They're working on it, and it's just kind of wait and see. It's something I'm gonna be monitoring throughout the year when I see him.
Second in the system for hitters with more than 10 or more plate appearances and strikeout percentage.
Yeah.
Behind Carson Seamus, who is also walking at like nearly 3 times the rate that Downs is. So that strikes me more as that he's like looking at too many pitches and Seamus.
Seamus is
because he's in Salem and A-ball in his first taste of full season, whereas Downs is a guy who should be pushing for major league playing time.
Yeah. And speaking of people pressing for major league playing time, I think the other name to mention would be Ryan Fitzgerald.
Fitzy.
Yeah. So this was, I think, his first game back because he missed a few, right? Was this his first one back after he missed a few with the
Yes. Yeah. Like, he missed 3 games at the end of the first week because he was ruled a close contact.
Yeah, with Jarren Duran.
I think that's all that's been reported.
Yeah.
As far as that goes.
I think it has. But he,
or reported or said by him, I should say, because he definitely said so. He said it on his TikTok or something. Yeah.
Instaface or whatever. I'm just kidding.
Bookface.
But yeah, no, Fitzgerald, it was kind of like what we talked about, what his numbers are going to look like. He homered, he struck out, he got hit, he grounded out. Like he's kind of like 3 true outcoming himself right now, where it's a home run. It's, it's hard hit. He's got 7 extra base hits. He's got 15 strikeouts. That's whatever. And he's got,
it's a 909 slugging, which I think is good. That's good.
It's also what he talked about is and I think he was on the Bradford show. He mentioned it where his goals this season are like, he wants to have X number of balls over like 100 miles an hour. Like he wants a max exit velo of this. Like he's one of those student of the game hitting types. He knows what he's doing. And as he came out and said, like, he tries to hit home run at every at bat. He's trying to hit the ball as hard as possible. And it shows, like, when he makes contact, it goes a long way. Or in this case, he just hits a pop up and the wind's blowing out like 90 miles an hour to right field and it turns into a home run.
Yeah.
It wasn't 90 miles an hour, but it was definitely not his best contact, but the fact that it went out still is impressive. But I don't know what they're going to do with him. It's a very interesting situation because he's not a contact player really, and I think this is something that I'm slightly concerned about at the major league level would be how much contact will he make, because pitchers are going to realize how aggressive he is hunting fastballs and just start like throwing pitches out of the zone and be like, if you're going to walk against us, go ahead. Especially if you're sporting, what is it, like 35% K rate right now? Well,
35% K rate. And I was going to quibble with the 3 true outcomes thing because his walk rate on the year is
4 walks or something.
He's got 3 walks and 37 plate appearances and a hit by pitch. And I mean, like his walk rate is 8.1 and that's consistent with his career.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not. No,
I guess I was just thinking in the sense that he has 7 extra base hits, 15 strikeouts, and 4 like walks or hit by pitches. So that's like 30 or 28 of whatever of the 35 at bats he has this year. It's like a lot of that. It was just thinking in that sense. He's not a 3 true outcome person. You're correct because he doesn't walk enough.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But it's interesting to me, that like Ref Snyder was the one that got the call here. I'm guessing it's what you said, that they're just going to move Arroyo to the infield and be the backup second base / shortstop.
Well, but they started Arroyo in right field tonight, so I don't think Ref Snyder's up there to start. I think Ref Snyder's up there
to be a bench guy, and they probably
in that case, want Fitzgerald getting
get at bats
in AAA because keep in mind again if these guys are going to come off the COVID IL in 3 days, and the thing is they have to make these decisions potentially. If these guys aren't coming off the IL, they've got to be guys who can go to Toronto next week. So that could be playing into decisions too.
Good point. But yeah, no, it's going to be interesting to see what they do with him because I think he's definitely in the consideration at some point this year for a call up. Mm-hmm. But I do think that he has some stuff still to work on, especially with his approach and kind of tightening things up at the plate. He's got to make more contact. Like, I understand the numbers can look good, but we saw with Jarren Duran last year, like if you're striking out a pretty high clip, even if you're hitting for power and, making hard contact in AAA, big league pitchers will find those holes and expose you. I
mean, dude, a 515 isolated power is not sustainable.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I think that's what Fitzgerald needs to work on is getting that contact rate up and putting together like better quality of bats. Cause he definitely goes up there trying to hit a home run. Like he does not get cheated when he gets his hacks in. Mm-hmm. And I think that just his aggressiveness at the plate is something that more seasoned pitchers or, once the book is out on him is something that pitchers will look to exploit.
Right. Fair enough. Just go really quick. A couple guys on the pitching side you want to highlight and then we'll move on.
So I saw Thomas Pannone, fine, org depth. So Edward Brazardo, and it was okay. I don't think it was as crisp. The stuff wasn't as good as I remember. I thought that the curveball was a little looser, like fastball was okay. Command was off a little bit. And that was his biggest thing was that he threw a ton of strikes and they were usually good strikes.
Uh-huh.
And so I wonder if like kind of just him being in no man's land for a few days, plus along with
might be a little rusty.
Yeah, a little rusty because this was his first appearance of the season.
It was right.
Which was weird because obviously it was their 5th game or something, or 4th game.
It was their 7th. They had a full.
It was a full week. You're right. It wasn't like the other level. So yeah, so that I'm kind of chalking it up to that. I also saw Tyler Danish, and he's pretty interesting. Like the stuff's not great. It's like tops out at like I think it was like 91 or 92, but it's funky. You know, he's coming from that low slot. He's got good sink on his fastball. Like I think it's fine in what he is, which is the 40th man on a 40-man roster. You know, the 27th, the 15th, 16th pitcher on a staff. Like,
sure.
It's fine. And I think the reason that he's a good fit in there is, as we talked about with the rest of their 40-man roster construction, the other pitchers that they have on the 40-man are frankly just not guys who you'd want to call up right now. And
Darwinson, you're working on things.
Darwinson, you have Seabold is working on things. Winkowski's has never pitched in the big leagues. Bayo, Groom, same thing. And that's your entire 40-man pitching staff. And Danish is someone who they'd be fine shuttling back and forth. They're fine, you know, we need an arm, just call him up. And if he doesn't pitch, it's not a big deal, you know.
Right.
You need a fungible arm like that on your 40-man so that you can let the prospects stay on their schedules and, you know, get their work in. And I think that's kind of what his purpose is right now. And why, as we said, like when Hill went on the DL or not the DL, the bereavement list, he's the one who got the call because if he doesn't pitch, it doesn't matter. Like he can, you know, he'll come up for 3-4 days. If he pitches, he pitches. If he doesn't, he doesn't. If it's a blowout, they'll throw him in there. It doesn't matter. Like that's not a role you want to throw someone who you think it has, you know, more of a future with your team. And that's why, you know, you're not going to see Seabold. You're not going to see Winkowski in that role. So I think that, you know, he's fine. It's serviceable. And that was kind of just the pitching. It wasn't a very exciting pitching day for me.
It's kind of interesting with Pannone. You know, it goes to show the K to walk rate is not everything, because in 13 2/3 innings, he's struck out 16 and walked 1.
He had like 7 strikeouts in the game I was at.
But he also has given up 20 hits and 12.
I mean,
runs,
it's like
11 earned.
It's like fringy stuff. It's all fringy across the board. What is it? The Lehigh Valley team is not good. So as I said,
compare that to, you know, Darwinson Hernandez, who in 8 2/3 innings has struck out 14 and only has walked 4, which is terrific for him.
Hit like 3 though.
1 hit.
No, I think he's hit like 3 guys though.
That sounds right. Actually, that sounds right. I forgot about that.
I'm almost positive he's hit several.
He's got three HPs.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I was like, it's definitely more than 4
numbers
walks.
Look wrong. Okay.
Yeah.
The 3 HPs.
There's a couple wild pitches in there too. Like you're getting the full Darwinson experience right now.
The full. Yeah. Let's see. Do we have wild pitches? I don't think we do. That sucks.
I'll look if I can get it. It's on BREF.
It's fine. At any rate, I mean, look at it. So I guess let's transition really quick then to check-in levels. Not too much more to say about the AAA level. I guess you're going to take all the hitters. I'm going to take all the pitchers. If there's anyone worth highlighting, I mean, you kind of hit on it. Another name to keep an eye on as a guy who might come up later in the year is John Schreiber.
I saw him too. He's fine. Like I saw him last year too. It's funky. It's usable.
It's a funky angle too, is the thing, and that we know that's something that High Bloom might love coming from the Rays.
Well, I think they have the buckets. It's either you throw really hard and you have really like high end velo, or if you don't have that, you come from that really funky angle that is off putting for hitters.
Yeah, and I mean in 7 innings,
Schreiber falls in that bucket.
Giving up 6 hits, 2 walks, 11 Ks in 7 innings. So
and
he can give you a little bit of length. He can give you 2 or 3 innings.
He strikes me as someone who, like, if Danish has to be DFA'd to get someone else on the roster, that Schreiber would replace him in that spot.
Agreed wholeheartedly, and that's all I'm saying for him. But I think that's a solid role for him. Yeah. So anyone on the hitter side you want to mention?
No, I think we closed out everyone on worth talking about there.
Moving down to Portland. Let me go first because the pitching side is where it's at in Portland, and you know when we do our pitcher of the week discussion and voting and things like that, there were like 4 guys in the discussion from Portland last week, and part of that again might be the team they played in Harrisburg, which is not good. But you know it's kind of funny. Jay Groom had a great start last week, 5 innings, only 1 hit, no walks, 4 Ks. But of course, then tonight didn't get out of the first inning. So not a great start for him this evening, but you know, great start for him. Brandon Walter in his first 2 starts, 11 innings, 12 Ks, no walks, 4 hits.
Well, and I think with Walter, it's interesting to say that he's doing this with like diminished velocity still, which it shows, I think, that he's got that complete game where he can pitch.
Why don't you talk about that?
Yeah, so he's like throwing like low 90s, whereas I saw him last year. He was like 92 to 94. He can get up to like 96, 97.
Mm-hmm.
And he's pitching more like low 90s from what I understand right now. I haven't seen him, but just from talking to people who have.
Mm-hmm.
And he's getting outs and being very successful with diminished stuff. And I think that shows that kind of why people are high on him is that even with this, he's still able to be successful because he throws strikes. He knows how to pitch and it's funky. And, you know, he can get by with that. Whereas there are other pitchers where, like, I think Groom's a good example of that, where if the stuff's down, they're toast.
Yeah.
And like,
or not even the stuff down. It's like the command, the control.
If the command is off a little bit, like,
yeah,
Groom is just like, yeah, just not. His numbers, as you said, are the worst of that pitching staff, and the reports are just, it's fine, but like, there's nothing really that stands out there. Whereas I think when you look at the rest of the staff, and we're going to get into, as you're going to get into with like Bayo.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah,
like,
you got Bayo with 18 Ks and 10 innings.
Even like that. Chris Murphy, like, feedback I'm getting is like, yeah, I mean, I don't think he's a starter, but I like him. Like, this is a guy who could be pitching the big leagues for a long time as like a swing man. Like, and even Victor Santos has been good this year. But like, I think, you know, the hierarchy of those pitchers, the minus Santos, I think is going to be a very, you know, hot topic of debate. Well, I guess it's not really Bayo. Bayo's clearly one. But
yeah,
I think it's the ordering of Walter, Groom, and Murphy, I think, is going to be something we're going to be debating a lot and have to do a lot of like intel gathering and thinking about, because there's a lot of like factors at play with the three of them, especially based on the early reports we're getting.
Absolutely, I think that's a great way to put it. And the other guy I wanted to mention is Frank German.
Well, you should mention. Let's talk about Bayo. Like, you got to mention those.
Oh, numbers. Well, okay, yeah. Because Bayo, I mentioned him briefly. 18 Ks and 10 innings to 2 walks. He's given up 2 runs, both of them on solo home runs.
And he is like
given up 6 hits.
He has like 40 swinging strikes in 2 games or something, or 45 or something.
Yeah,
that's
right. That's right, Fifi. He's had a heck of a start to the season.
And the feedback is, it's glowing. Like,
he's a dude, man. I mean, you know, let me ask you this. We're not re-ranking yet. We're in the middle of the month. Who would you have 4th in the system right now? Because I'm very tempted.
I would have Bayo.
I
yeah, no, 100%
too. I mean, I just don't know how you don't.
No.
With the way
and this is, I don't think it's so much of a knock on Durant. I think it's Bayo's taking the next step, and it's something we've 100%. Talked about with him, that every year he's gotten better, like an order of magnitude better. And from what I understand, similar jump is taken this year, and hopefully I'm going to see him this weekend. He's taken that step forward, and if you watch the video, and I think our Red Sox stats has done a great job kind of putting up, you know, highlight videos of his whiffs. He's missing bats with those secondary pitches consistently, and that is something he's going to have to do, because the fastball is pretty straight. Like, there's definitely, you know, the fastball is hittable, but if he's throwing like a hammer, slurvy breaking ball and that changeup, like, he's going to be very tough to hit. And it's something that as I think he's going to put himself in consideration, not just obviously to be our 4th prospect, but I think by midseason, he's a consensus top 100 guy nationally. Like, that's the kind of upside he has, especially if the reports start coming out. And that's, you know, what I've heard is that the scouts I'm talking to have seen him are like, yeah, he's a starter. That was one of the biggest question marks. And if that becomes a consensus thing, like, that's rocket ship time. You push him up those lists, because he's going to be premium stuff with 3 pitches. And if you think he can start, that's a guy right there.
No question. So we're keeping an eye on Bayo. And then there's been some guys shoving in the bullpen. Andrew Pallidi in 3 outings, 3.1 innings, 3 1/3 innings pitched, 1 hit, 7 Ks, no walks. Frank German in 4 innings, 2 hits, 1 unearned run, 6 Ks, no walks. Jacob Wallace, 4 innings, 2 hits, 1 run on a solo shot, 6 Ks to 1 walk. Again, we'll see how these numbers eventually regress to a mean potentially. You know, it could be Harrisburg just was a terrible lineup, but definitely some guys performed really well in Portland. And a pitching staff we were interested in.
Yeah, and it's something that the scouts have mentioned. Several of the guys you talked about, Chase Shugart also as guys in the bullpen they've liked. So it's definitely a very loaded pitching staff between both the rotation and the bullpen, which I feel like at the level you often have one or the other. It's rare that you get both, where, you know, pretty much every arm who's going to pitch, you're going to be interested in watching.
How about on the hitting side, Ian? Anyone to kind of pick out real quick?
I think overall the Seahawks bats have been pretty quiet to start the year, and that was expected. I think when we were kind of previewing the roster, we said it was probably the weakest lineup in the system.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say that the guy who's really stood out, obviously, so far is David Hamilton. I didn't realize this. He has their only 2 home runs this year.
Yeah, and I mean he almost hit for the cycle. Well, those were both in the same game. No, that's
Yeah.
not true at all. That can't be. Is it?
That's what our stats say.
I guess so. Dang, and those are both in the same game.
Yeah, it was on the first game.
Yeah,
He also has like
he also has 8
their,
steals and 9 attempts.
but he also has like half of their RBIs this year. So if that's right, their offense has been struggling. I guess is just the point. But Hamilton is exciting. Like he's another one that scouts identified to me as obviously the guy to watch on that team. And it's interesting that he brings a dimension that I feel like they don't really have with a lot of their players in the system, where he's just like kind of like he's a threat on the bases. They don't have many burners. And like, we're talking about a 65-70 runner who has decent contact skills. He's got 5 strikeouts and 5 walks and 36 plate appearances, that's very good. I mean, he's putting the ball in play, but he also has the speed. He's got a couple home runs. Like, I don't think power is a major part of his game still, though. Like, he doesn't have a single double this year. He's got a triple. But yeah, he's definitely exciting. And, beyond him, Cole Cottom's hitting pretty well, but 8
crazy high strikeout rate and crazy high average on balls in play.
Yeah.
Actually.
That's going to regress to the mean.
Let me throw this out there, Ian. So minimum 10 plate appearances. They have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 13 hitters who have had at least 10 plate appearances.
Yeah.
How many of them do you want to guess have a strikeout rate above 25%?
9.
11.
11. Jeez. So the only ones that don't are what? Hamilton and Eli Morera.
Nick Sogard, who has been getting a lot of run at third base, probably because he doesn't strike out.
Yeah. I guess Tyrion Reed only has like 10 at bats this year, so that's not a great.
Well, he got hurt. He just went on the IL.
Oh, did he? Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, wow. Yikes, they strike out a lot, huh?
Yeah, Cottom's at a 40%. Hudson Potts is at a 39%. Brandon Howlett at a 36%.
Izzy Wilson
Christian Koss is at 29%.
29, yeah.
Tyreek Reed 30%. Pedro Castellanos 30%. Anyway, but it goes on and on.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the best lineup. On the contrast, if we wanted to talk about offensive statistics,
let's move on.
Let's talk about Greenville.
Let's talk about the Greenville Drive.
They just played in Asheville, and this is why these numbers look great. Don't get me wrong, and it's very encouraging.
Video game. Yeah.
Asheville plays like you're using like a Super Bowl. Like the ball just flies there. It's also extremely short down the lines, and it's just a tiny ballpark. So numbers, you can get inflated pretty quickly there. So that's the caveat with this. But at the same time, Ceddanne Rafaela is hitting 395, 422, 860. Matthew Lugo, 514, 538, 865. Alex Benelis, I think, hit another home run tonight. So that's not going to be on these stats, but he's slugging over 500 too. Like,
yeah,
there's a lot of good stuff going on with the offense there.
The crazy thing there, so Gilberto Jimenez has not walked yet.
Not that surprising.
He had a game the other day where I think he saw 12 pitches and swung at 11 of them.
Not that surprising.
I don't know what he thinks he's doing, but I mean, he's hitting for a little more pop. I mean, the 273 ISO slugging is good.
Yeah, but it's also 2 Asheville home runs. Like,
exactly.
You don't know what those mean.
So let's get this team out of Asheville. But it's a nice start to the season for those hitters. I mean, Matthew Lugo and Ceddanne Rafaela are probably might be 1 and 2. They were 1 and 2 on the Baseball America prospect hot sheet today.
I saw that.
Rafaela
I think if you're looking at that team, those are the ones I'm gonna like. We know what Nick York is. He's hitting 324. Like, that's not surprising at all to me. That Nick York's hitting well. Benelis is hitting for power and his hitting well. That's encouraging, but he also, I think it's like a 32% strikeout rate or something.
Benelis is at a 27%.
27. Oh, right. Yes, plate appearances.
Because he's also got a 15% walk rate. Benelis has a 27% K rate, so that's not terrible.
Yeah, that's very manageable.
Yeah.
And I think Rafaela, like, there's a couple things you got to remember. Like, he's not big at all. He's like 5'8", 5'9". That's obviously been one of the concerning things is, he's very aggressive. He likes to hit the ball hard, but is it a true power approach? And I'm not sold on that. I'm going to need to see it like for consistently over the entire season, not just a week in Asheville. But obviously, like, you prefer he does this to start the year than the other option.
Sure.
So
yeah,
between him and Lugo, I think they are two I'm definitely very excited to see, hopefully at some point this year, and get some reports on, because if those two can take a step forward, I think that'd be a good, really good for the system's depth as a whole, because they're both guys who they do have some upside, especially I think Rafaela because of his defensive ability.
Well, with Rafaela, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say, if he can show like that the offense is legit, then that's a very big development, because I think his glove is major league ready already. And I think the Red Sox do too, the way they used him in spring training. So, well,
and the way they're used, that's what I was going to say, is he's almost exclusively playing center field right now. He's one game at shortstop, and otherwise he's only played center field. So he's not really being used as that utility type right now, which is what they're doing instead with, say, like Edinson Paulino in Salem is playing all over the diamond. Ryan Fitzgerald in Worcester is playing all over the diamond. Rafaela is playing almost exclusively center field with a little bit of shortstop to keep the infield skills sharp, but they're not moving him around like they did last year. I think they realized the potential and the fact that Ceddanne Rafaela as a major leaguer right now is a guy who's going to make it because of his glove, and hopefully he hits as well. It's not like you're looking for him to be a guy who hits in the middle of the order even. The glove's good enough that if he could play up the middle, that's a major leaguer.
Yeah, like I think the glove is at least a 60, and I think I would not like begrudge you for going 70 on it.
I saw him for 2 games last year, and I might throw that on him based on what I saw in person those 2 games.
Yeah, and I saw him, I think, 6 games last year, and I also just know, like, from talking to scouts, of like the range of outcomes you're getting is 60 to 70 with the glove, and he's got a good arm too. Like, it's not a slouch of. He's not like a 40.
He had one highlight reel where he threw a guy out from like deep. Yeah,
I think he threw 2 out last week in one game against Asheville.
Yeah.
Like, it's probably a plus arm, above average arm too. With that defensive package, as you said, like, it's very easy to project him for the bench, but it's just the concern with him is contact rate. He's got a lot of like in zone swing and miss and things like that. And he's just very aggressive. Like, he doesn't really walk. It's just, he's going up there trying to hit, and will he be able to make enough contact for him to play as a bench guy, or potentially even more? And that's the thing is, I heard where there were some whispers coming out of camp that his offense might have taken a step forward, and it looks like, that could be the track we're on.
Let me ask you this question, Ian. What odds would you put on, say, Don Rafaela breaking the top 10 of our rankings this year?
50-50, and that might be low.
50-50?
Yeah.
Because if you figure Casas is probably going to graduate, it's by the end of the year.
I would say Duran probably is too.
Duran,
how many bats? He doesn't need that many, I don't feel like. Right?
Yes, that's true. I guess that's a good.
Because he had 107 at bats last year.
So let's say 2 guys ahead of him graduate. For context, Rafaela right now is in the 20s, I think, right? But like the high.
No, he's 19.
Is he 19? Okay, so he's 19th in our rankings right now.
I mean, yeah, I would.
He would. So 2 guys ahead of him graduate. I don't think Crawford's going to graduate. He might, but I think it's going to take a while. I could see him passing the teammates who are ahead of him.
I mean, like, it's hard because I think you and I both have him ahead of him and as already.
I think I do.
Yeah, I think we do. So I think he's going to be pushing, like, even after just like, he's going to be in that 10 to like 15 range, I think, pretty shortly. It's just a question of if he can crack the top 10.
He might be top 15 the next update.
I mean, I just looked at him 16th last month. So yeah, I mean, that's not.
I could see him top 15.
He'll be top 15 for me next month. So yeah.
Yeah. It's just, I think top 10, the thing is that you're looking at, it's just like, you need guys to fall is the problem.
I mean, and there are definitely guys that like are going to fall from that group.
But look at the top 10, because looking at the top 10, Casas, Meyer, York are all doing great. Duran, I don't know. He's falling out of the top 10.
No, I think he's just going to get flipped with Bayo.
He'll probably get flipped with Bayo, but Bayo's not falling. Groom, we'll see where it goes. He had a really bad start tonight. He had a good start the first time around.
Initial feedback on Groom. I mean, the faller would be number 10, the 10th ranked prospect.
Well, Blaze Jordan, we'll talk about in a minute, but it's like Walter's not falling. Blaze isn't even Miguel Blaze isn't even playing.
He's not falling either.
And he's not. Well, that's what I'm saying. Why would he fall? He's not even playing. Right
the only
now.
two from the top 10 who
is
would
hurt.
It would fall would be Groom and Blaze. But then
Blaze
it's like
Jordan.
Yes, Blaze Jordan. You're right. Thank you. But then you have like Wilkelman's right there. He's pitching really well this year. Winkowski's off to a good start.
Seabold had more walks than you would want, but
Seabold had a terrible first outing. He was very good in his second outing. Chris Murphy's been solid to start the year. Like
it's going to be tough, but I think it's I like
it's 50, definitely doable.
I like 50-50.
I think it's about that.
Pitchers in Greenville, we should mention, not nearly as good as the hitters have been. Again, they were also pitching in Asheville.
Correct.
But that said, it's it's not the highlight.
It's not the best staff. I mean, I think we said it was did we call it the weakest pitching staff of the?
If we didn't, I mean, I'm pretty sure we did, but if we didn't, it is. I mean, I'm comfortable saying that. Even like Wyatt Olds, who was the guy I loved kind of out of camp, has not been good.
But he's not a starter. Like
probably not. Yeah, he's probably not. But at any rate, I mean, the interesting thing is, going to be seeing how much of this is Asheville, because the reports we got on Shi-Jung Liu tonight.
Well, they're not in Asheville anymore.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Oh, okay.
Now that they're coming out of Asheville, if this kind of, again, like kind of normalizes, because you look at, for example, Yusniel Padron Artiles, not a top prospect type guy, but you look at his line, he's got 11 innings pitched, 12 Ks to 2 walks, but he's given up 4 home runs. He got bombed in Asheville, on 4 home runs on 11 hits, 9 runs. So we'll see how that, but can you mention briefly the reports we got on Lou this evening from our man, Clegg down in Greenville?
Yeah. If you're not following Roto Clegg on Twitter, Chris is helping us out. He lives down in the Greenville area, and he's going to be going to games for us this year. He's putting out some good stuff on Twitter. But yeah, we watched Lou today, and Lou threw 5 innings, 2 hits, no runs, 1 walk, 9 strikeouts. And he was, I think the most interesting thing to me is he was up to 97 in the early parts of the game. And that's I saw
how
Lou
long
last
did he hold
year
it
for like 3 innings.
Okay.
Because I saw Lou last year, and I think he was like 88 to 94, like mostly 90 to 92. Like it wasn't great, like velocity wise. But in this one, he was like 94 to 95 for the majority of the first 3 innings, topped out at 97. By the 5th, which was his last inning, he was like more like the 91, 92 range, but that's expected, especially if you've seen Lou. He's not the most physical player, dude. He's just like, he's pretty small. Like he's probably like 6 foot, pretty average body, very athletic though. But the fact that velo is way up there is very interesting. Like, and kind of lends credence to we heard some swingman buzz with him. Not sure it's a starter, not sure it's like a single inning reliever, but that's, that type of velo, you don't, for him is a big improvement of what he was last year. And, you combine that with his slider, I guess, looked pretty good today. Changeup wasn't unclear what he was throwing with that. Threw a couple curveballs too. Like, if he's got a fastball and a slider working and then a usable third pitch, that's definitely a potential swingman type. And he's someone who they could really use a pitcher stepping forward in that rotation. So it'd be interesting to kind of follow that and see if he can carry that on and be consistent with that kind of stuff from outing to outing.
For sure. Let's move on Salem to wrap this up, Ian. On the offensive side, I mean, start with the dude, Marcelo Meyer, off to a really good start. Like it seems like a guy who is going in there with a mature approach. He's learning within games.
Yeah,
the crazy part with Meyer.
He's extremely good. And
part of a class of high school hitters from last year's draft that are all off to terrific
shortstops,
starts.
man. Lawler, Brady House. Who's the other one that I'm forgetting? Khalil Watson. Thank you. Khalil Watson is electric. Like you don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
You don't know what's going to happen. It's like he's either going to hit a home run or he might ground out and get taken out of the game because he doesn't run it out because he like slams his bat too hard on the ground. Like it's ridiculous to watch, but his bat speed is crazy. Like anyway, but I think the Red Sox are very happy with who they ended up with Meyer. Like, you're seeing it, the all fields approach. Like I feel like he almost carries himself like a major leaguer already, even though he's an A-ball. Like he's going out there and he's doing the job. It's consistent. All fields, like good approach, knows balls and strikes. He just handles himself really maturely. And it's a lot of fun to watch. I've really enjoyed watching, even though the camera angle is not the best. The MILB broadcasts of Salem have kind of been must watch with him. Yep. Some of the other guys out there.
And one thing to throw out there, remember that this is the Carolina League in low A now, and especially Salem's home park is where,
don't worry about the lack of home runs.
Don't worry about power, because Myers got 4 doubles in 8 games.
He also had
home runs, but
1 home run that I think the wind just murdered, and he had another one that was just foul. So the power I'm not really worried about. I think the other hitters, it's kind of interesting. Like a couple guys, Nico Cavadas is like doing exactly what I expected. He's hitting for power. He's walking and he's striking out. That's just like, can we call him 3 true outcomes? Is that him?
Yes, you can absolutely call him 3 true outcomes. He's got 7 hits, 4 of them for extra bases, 9 walks, 11 Ks.
Yeah,
in 7 games.
Can we call
most of which were at DH? Though now he's starting to play first base again. So I wonder if he was dinged up coming out of camp.
Baseman,
but he only DH'd the first week,
really?
Which makes me think he was dinged up coming out of camp.
Yeah. And then I think we need to shout out Brainer
Bonusy.
Brainer like a turkey, Bonusy. Like Brian, isn't that a thing? That I need Brainer, something to remember it. Yeah. He has 13 walks in 7 games.
Yeah,
and
that's weird.
He also has 7 singles because I don't think he just doesn't have power. But he's just like, he's a very unique prospect. I don't know what to make of him because he's not fast. He doesn't really have power. He's got a good approach. He's got a good ball. He can read balls and strikes, but I don't know if his approach is that good because he chases a lot of bad pitches still.
Here's the thing. Guys who walk an A ball, I'm not necessarily impressed by.
No, because
it could just be that they're just not swinging at garbage.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's what I was saying. Like, he knows the strike zone enough not to swing, but at the same time, he also swings at bad pitches because he'll swing at a pitcher's pitch that he shouldn't swing it and just roll over on it. But yeah, no, he's off to a good start. Miguel Ugueto I don't know what to think of him because he's old for the level. I don't really like his swing at all.
Ugueto.
I don't like his swing at all. I think I post a video, and if I haven't, I will.
Yeah,
it's just very weird. Like, it's super stiff. He doesn't really have a stride. It's like all upper body, but he just hits the ball. I mean, I don't know. He's got, he's hitting 390. But on a 2%
walk rate, that's
the thing. He has no approach at all, and he's a ton of swing and miss. But that's interesting that he's leading them. And I think on the flip side, Blaze Jordan's off to a rough start. Wait and see with him. It's super early. Same with the Edinson. Paulino is another one. Same thing with him. But
Paulino is interesting in that they are playing him not only so he's played second, third, short in the past, but they're also playing him a fair amount in the outfield. In part because they just have to. Because Meyer is playing shortstop whenever he's in the field.
Yeah.
Brainer Bonusy is playing mostly second base, but also some shortstop. And I think he might have played third once. They're trying to get
third. They have Hickey and Tyler. Not Hickey. They have Tyler Miller and Blaze a little bit.
Blaze Jordan, who are playing third base. Jordan's playing some first base along with Nico Cavadas. There's just not a ton of infield at bats.
Whereas the outfield is more open because right now the outfield they're playing like Kier Meredith, Carson Simas a lot out there. I mean, not Carson Simas, Philip Sykes.
Yep. The starting outfield out there is Eduardo Vaughn, Philip Sykes,
and Ugueto.
And Miguel Ugueto.
Yeah.
So, and Ugueto's off to a pretty good start, 14 hits to lead that team. But Sykes has had a pretty rough start hitting 118. Vaughn has had a pretty rough start hitting 154 with no power. But yeah, I think actually Simas has played some outfield. If you mentioned it,
I thought he had, but I wasn't sure. But
I think he's got 4 games. I think one of them was out there.
Yeah.
So, I mean, again, it's a young team. With young teams like that, you got to be patient either way.
Well, I think that what you just said about having to be patient with the young teams is a good way to sum up the pitching staff too.
Yeah.
Because it's been inconsistent.
That is a professional transition.
Yeah.
Right there. Mr.
Done this
Tundle.
a few times.
I mean, the best pitcher there has probably been Gabriel Jackson. 2 starts, 7 innings, hasn't given up a run yet.
No. The best pitcher there has been Wilkelman. Come on.
Oh gosh, sorry. Okay, Wilkelman Gonzalez. Sorry, I was like, this does not look right. Okay, Wilkelman Gonzalez, 2 innings. 2 starts, 7 innings, 12 Ks to 4 walks, 3 hits. Just solid for his age in his return appearance in Salem. I can't imagine he's there past mid-year if he pitches like this because he has time there last year as well. He's just been great. He's done exactly what you would want him to do. He's striking guys out. Maybe I wouldn't mind the walk rate ticking down a shade, but it's 2 starts. So we'll see where it goes from there. Jackson has also been pretty good, 6 Ks in 7 innings, which is not super outstanding, but just also not allowing a lot of contact and not walking anybody, which is what you want. And then in the bullpen, a guy who we told you all about, Jacob Webb, 4 1/3 innings. He struck out 11 and walked 1, and I don't think he's allowed a fly ball yet. He either hasn't allowed a fly ball or a ground ball. I'm inclined to think he hasn't allowed a fly ball. So that's how he's given up 2 runs, 1 earned on 2 hits and a walk.
Quite unlucky.
He has been unlucky, but I mean, Webb.
But I mean, he's got a
he'll be in Greenville mid-year.
He's recorded 13 outs this year, and he has 11 strikeouts. Yeah,
that's true. I hadn't thought of it that way.
Yeah, like it's stupid. I don't know why he's there. It's very strange. But I
don't think he'll be there long. He'll look, the guys they have in Greenville are guys they want to get a look at in Greenville, and so you just give Webb half a year in Salem before they move him up. So we'll see how that goes, but I mean, and then we probably do need to mention Barbaro Pinheiro real quick. 3 games, hasn't recorded an out yet. Tough start to the year. He left his last start kind of holding his arm or his shoulder. That's just a tough start, man. 6 walks, 3 hits, 11 runs, 9 earned.
Randy Consuela. That's all I have to say.
Consuegra, yeah. Well, Consuegra still pitches
him
for Venezuelan Winter League, so that's interesting. But at any rate, all right. That's it for check-in levels. Email, Ian. I was about to call you email, but Ian, let's move on to some emails. Is I think what I was going to try and say, shall we? Again, we want to talk about what you want to hear about, so hit us up. The email is podcast@soxprospects.com, and we've got a fair number of them this week, so let's get to it. Ian, our first email comes from frequent emailer Harrison, who is now on my crap list. The email is simply Hamilton reference, no chance. So he's on Team Ian from the not getting a Hamilton reference. Our next email,
no. We don't need that. That reference is way above my head.
Okay. Our next email comes from Gregory. He says, "Hi, Chris and Ian. So sometimes I feel like fans get a little caught up with prospect ceilings and don't really think about the risk a prospect flames out. With that in mind, I wondered if the two of you could do a round on prospects you think have the highest floor, guys you think are most likely to make the bigs and contribute consistently with more than a cup of coffee. It might make sense to set a baseline. So are there any starters who you think are most likely to stick as at least a number 5? What pitchers do you think can stick as at least a consistent middle reliever? Are there any position players who you feel very confident about contributing consistently as at least a utility player or platoon bench guy? Or maybe risk is so high that you don't feel confident that any prospects are very likely to hit those floors? Thank you, Gregory. It's an astute observation, Ian, especially I think is spot on that ceiling as I think what most, especially casual prospect followers get caught up in.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's how you wind up with you said this guy was going to be this. It's like, no, people said that's his ceiling. That's not a projection.
No, ceiling is, and that's like, the best case or 90th percentile outcome. Like that's not what we think is most likely going to happen. I think that's something we try to make pretty clear on the reports. It's like when you click on someone's player page, and I think if you're talking about someone who I think has a pretty high floor, I think like Brandon Walter is a good example of that. We'll say like potential of is this for him. We have like potential major league swingman. And like, that's what we think are the most like that's what we'd say about like the 50th percentile, 60th percentile outcome is. Then we'll say like ceiling of a back end starter. That's obviously the 90th percentile or 80th, however high you want to go with that. Like that's the higher end outcome. And obviously you can exceed our anticipated ceiling too, that, this isn't an exact science, but that's why like, we try to make it pretty clear, like to differentiate between those for that reason. Or like when you go to like the kind of the guys like Miguel Blaze or anything, like, his ceiling is who knows, it could be an all-star type, but his floor is he never gets out of A ball. So,
right.
There's obviously, this is a good question. I think that for pitchers, middle relievers are pretty easy to find, honestly.
I think that's fair. And put it this way. I think here's a good way to just really generally put it before we get into specific players. I think let's just make it simple and say top floor type guys. There's no one whose floor we have higher than a 4 on our grades. because there's a potential, like, we're not going to say that a guy's floor is a major league regular, which is a 5, right? Like, it's just, we're just not.
No
like,
one. I mean,
there's
it's
no
very
one
rare
who,
that someone is like that. Like the few guys who are like that, it's like Wander Franco. It's like guys like that because
yeah. And I mean, look, like
weird stuff can happen.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how you feel, Ian. I mean, the top floor is probably Casas.
Of the position players.
Or just
yeah, I mean, I think it is. It's like it's Casas. It's someone like that. But I think if you're going like a little lower down and you're looking for a prettier high-ish floor, I think like in a weird way, like Rafael is a pretty good example.
Exactly
of that
who I was just thinking of.
Because his defense is so good. His defense is so good that is like a carrying tool. And when you're talking about someone with a floor, with like a high floor, usually for position players, it's because their defense is incredible. And another example is that if they had like an elite defensive catcher, like that's someone who what they are. They don't, but like if you had like an elite defensive catcher type, like I'm thinking like the Cardinals, like Ivan Herrera, like someone like that, like who's just a very good defender, like what they are with that, that's fine. But I think Rafael is probably one of the higher ones because he's one of the better defenders. I think, like David Hamilton, if he can prove, his defense is solid, then he's another one who could have a pretty high floor because he can run, he can play defense. Like that's all you need to do to be a bench guy. But I think Rafael and like obviously excluding like Casas and the top guys who are close to big league ready, I think Rafael is like a pretty good example of someone with a pretty high floor. And then as I said, for the pitching, like I think Walter is a good example. He kind of is what he is, but like that stuff's going to play in a major league pitching staff in some capacity. Another guy who, and the reason I would put him over someone like Chris Murphy is that I'm comfortable projecting Walter to throw quality strikes. Murphy, there's still like, there's a chance that he just like doesn't throw enough strikes to make the big leagues. Like, I don't think there's a high probability of it, but there is a chance with someone like him. So I think he's like a good example. And I think those are kind of the two that really stood out and jumped to mind when you said the high floor thing.
Yeah. And I mean, the other one that that I'm thinking of and I'm looking at now, and I think, I almost wonder if this is a guy who should have a 4 floor is Bayo, if he keeps this up, because he strikes me as a guy who, and again, it's easy to say he's the best. I mean, that's why he's the best pitching prospect in the system.
Yeah.
Right. So again, it's almost cheating, but
no, it's something I think we'll have to discuss next month when we're doing this.
Our next email, Ian, comes from Jeff. He says, "Hey, Chris and Ian, first off, thanks for all that you guys do. You mentioned last episode that Gilberto Jimenez is, quote, not an 80 runner anymore, end quote, which got me thinking. I'm curious about how these grades are assessed and what can cause it to increase or decrease besides injury, weight gain, etc. Obviously, speed is an important factor, but I've always wondered what other factors elevate a player to an elite runner. I know there are multiple aspects, such as base-to-base time, situational awareness, and for base stealers, the ability to take a big lead, get a good jump, etc. But wanted to get you guys' thoughts. Thanks again, and keep up the good work, Jeff. Actually, Ian, correct me if I'm wrong here. Speed grade is literally home to first, basically, and then you can tweak it based on some of those other things. Yeah,
it's home to first. It's so it's like, I don't have the chart in front of me, but
you could get it. Like, there's a Fangraphs article. If you look Fangraphs 2080 scale,
they have it. It's like 3.9 from the left side is an 80, 4.0 from the right side because obviously the lefty's closer to first base, so you have to like adjust the scale depending on which side of the plate. But then every 10th of a second you drop a grade. You go from there. But speed is the easiest one to grade because it's literally just home to first, and then
stopwatch.
You take a stopwatch, you time it, and that's it. And that's you can tweak it a little bit for like instincts and stuff, but a lot of some teams even don't have that. It's just a raw speed grade, and then you talk about instincts separately.
Yeah.
So no, speed is pretty linear. Like it's not. There's not a lot of like fudging it. Like you go to a game, you have your stopwatch, you time them, and it's hard. It can be hard to get like a good time, quote unquote, because a good time is a bunt doesn't count. I guess this is something. A bunt is like a jailbreak. You don't really count that because there are guys who will be like, and him as a good example of this, he's like drag bunting. He's like halfway to first base by the time he makes contact. Not really, but like he's getting a few steps. Like I've gotten like 3 6s and 3 7s on drag bunts before, which is obviously off the like high end of the scale. So what you're usually the best times usually come on like a ground ball to like third base or shortstop. That's like a slow roller because that's one you're chugging the entire way from the box. And yeah, that's kind of what it is. And, if you don't get that time, it can be a little harder, but yeah, no, there's not a lot that goes into it other than that.
And what causes the grade to go down? It's basically just, growth is one thing.
I mean, with him,
that's in a lot of reports.
His body just changed. Like,
yeah. I mean, he looks like you said, I think last episode, he looks like a safety.
Yeah. He went from being like kind of like skinny, like his jersey didn't really fit him, his little loose fitting, not very muscular, to he's pretty like well built and sturdy now. And that's just like, you got to remember, a lot of these kids are 16, 17 years old when we see them for the first, or not 16, but I guess 17, 18 years old when we see them for the first time. And, 3-4 years later, a lot can change physically. I mean, just think about how, your body changed between when you were 17, 18, when you're 21, 22, 23, like a lot can change in that time. And that's how those grades can, change so drastically. Like, I mean, I've seen guys go from like being like plus or average runners to like 20s in that time, or 30s in that time. Like, it can change a lot.
And I mean, with Jimenez, we're talking about a guy that can beat out ground balls to second base, which was just true 80 speed to like,
he was like
60 at least. Probably, right?
I mean, probably like closer to like a 70. It's like
close to a 70. Yeah.
Like, but I mean, back in the day, he was like routine ground ball to shortstop. He would beat out more often than not. And now it's like
safe. You mean?
Yeah. Like beat it out, like beat it to first base.
Beat it out. Yes. I heard be out. Okay.
Oh, no.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. Our next email comes from Aaron. He says, "Hi guys. In a recent podcast, the topic of comparative value of a starter versus reliever was brought up. And you gave an answer that I've heard for years, that a fifth, I think it means fifth starter is more valuable than a high leverage reliever because of the inning load. However, as been discussed to death, starters, especially back end starters, simply don't throw the innings they used to. And I'm wondering, as back end starters and bulk relievers converge more closely together, whether we're nearing a point when the old adage of starter more valuable won't be true. If a fifth starter is only going to go 4 to 5 innings, are they really more valuable to a team than a lockdown closer or a really good 2 to 3 inning guy who can go twice in a turn through the rotation? The obvious example on the Red Sox is Garrett Whitlock versus Tanner Houck or Rich Hill. Gun to my head, I would take Whitlock over the other two, even as a reliever. I realize many think Whitlock should be starting, but I'm talking about their roles right now. So I guess I'm wondering, one, if the old adage about a starter or reliever value has become blurrier, and two, if you think teams perceive there being any change there. And as a bonus question, if the Red Sox seem to be considering it, who are a couple prospects who could benefit? Thanks. Good question.
This is a great question.
Yeah.
And I think he's 100% right. It's blurring.
You do.
Yeah. I mean, there was a stat today that how many pitchers do you think this year have thrown over 100 pitches in a start?
I saw it.
Oh, you saw it? Okay, yeah. Nate Eovaldi is the only pitcher this year. That's crazy. We're 3 weeks into the season.
Well, but keep in mind that that's.
I know it's the weird. I know it's because of that, but I think what it is teams are becoming more cognizant with the health of pitchers, and they want someone who can go out there. They'd rather, if they can get 90 pitches out of a guy 5 days, and that's less likely to get them hurt than throwing 100. I think that's the way we're going to see it end up going. Mm-hmm. And the flip side is you're going to need those like long relief guys, like as you said, like Whitlock. And it was funny that he mentioned that because Stats had a tweet that Whitlock has thrown. He's 9.2 innings this year, 4 hits, 1 run, 2 walks, 11 Ks, 119 pitches, 21 whiffs. He has more innings than Walker, Houck, Hill, and Pivetta, and each of them has made 2 starts. And
there you go.
That, I mean, you'd be hard pressed to argue that he's not more valuable than every one of those guys. And I would 100% agree that he is. And I think that is and that's something we're definitely having to be more cognizant of with evaluations. I think like Walter's a good example of that. Like someone who, even if they aren't a starter, they can add, or Chris Murphy too is another example, that even if they aren't a starter, they have the ability to add significant value in that role. And Cutter Crawford's another one who I think could fit in that role. And it is blurring the lines a lot, but the hard thing is that it's leaving a situation where like there are very few pitchers who I would project as quote unquote starters for teams.
Yeah.
And that's where I think it's like, you don't want to get kind of lazy in a way and just be like, no one is a starter, because there has to be some starters. Like, you can't go to having teams having, all bullpen games. Like that just doesn't work.
Right.
So I think that what it is that we're going to see more of a premium on the premium starting pitching prospects. And that's why if like Brian Bayo can take that step forward, that's so important to the Red Sox.
Yep.
But we're going to see those guys who are kind of tweeners will also will I think hold more value than originally perceived. Then there won't be as much of a ding as we used to do, 4 or 5 years ago of, this guy's not a starter.
Be a death sentence.
Exactly. Whereas now it's like, where now I think I fall more on the camp that I would take a tweener over like a pure 1 inning reliever. And I think if you look at our rankings, they reflect that pretty well, that, there's not a single like pure 1 inning guy in the top 30. I don't think. Yeah, there isn't. Those guys fall like outside the third in the 30 to 40 range, because at the end of the day, like the most you're going to get out of them is a single inning, unless they're a closer. They don't belong that high up. Whereas like the guys who are in the top 30, who are pitchers like that, it's like Cutter Crawford, who has a chance to be a multi-inning guy.
Yep.
Chris Murphy, same thing. Like Ward, back when he was healthy, was the same thing. Like you need to be able to throw those multiple innings. And I definitely think that those guys are becoming more valuable. And more of like, and we're seeing more teams are going to that. Like, that's just kind of the way the game is evolving. And I think it's a good role because it keeps more pitchers. Like, there's a lot of guys who have really good stuff for 3 innings. I think Lou, as we talked about earlier, is a great example of that. There's a lot of guys who can hold really good stuff for 3 innings, but innings 4 and 5, it falls off. And in the past, there was either, they'd be a starter who ended up being kind of like a crappy 5th starter, or they'd be, relegated to a 1-inning role. And I think teams are realizing that like those guys can be more valuable in that multi-inning thing. And that's why,
that's the point. That's exactly the point. It's
exactly.
Not chicken. It's like a chicken egg situation where it's like they're more valuable because they're being used in this way that you get more value out of them, right? A guy who's throwing 1 inning in the 6th, I don't care how good that 1 inning is. It's 1 inning compared to 4.
Exactly. Or even 2 or 3. Yeah,
it's not getting, you're not getting the same return out of them. Throw them 2 to 3 innings. I mean, I love what they're doing with Whitlock.
Yeah.
He's there to throw 3 innings when they need it. He can close other games. Like
tonight he closed.
Yeah. Like that's perfect.
That
is a valuable reliever.
And this is though why, and I think it's something we're gonna have to discuss. I don't know what they do with Jay Groom, because I don't think his stuff works in that role.
In the long reliever role?
Yeah. I think his stuff is like his best asset would be his ability to be a starter.
Yeah.
And if he's not that, like, I just don't think like his stuff is that good in that role. Whereas like someone like Walter, I think it would work in that role.
Yeah.
And so it's an interesting, it's a very good question. And I do think they're spot on that's, that is the way the game's going. And I think that it's something, as you can kind of see, as I said, just to sum it up with our rankings, like we're kind of, we've been changing and kind of adopting that principle too. And those guys are definitely more valuable than we thought they were, 3, 4, 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm. We've got 2 more emails, Ian. Our first is from Harry. He says, "Hey, Chris and Ian, I was curious about Ceddanne Rafaela and his current hot streak to start the minor league season. You all have specifically heard and said that his fielding is potential plus. I feel like he said this during the episode. I feel like his floor is high with his ability to field incredibly well." He's definitely been listening to this episode. "With his ability to field incredibly well and ability to do it at certain positions, it feels like the key for him is at the plate. What would he need to do at the plate to jump higher in the rankings and become a potential top 10 guy?" Yeah, he's absolutely listening to this episode. "How much can we take away from his hot start as a new element to his hit tool and power," which we've talked about. But the final question regarding Rafaela is, if he ends up with a 5 hit tool with 5 power, what type of player is that comparable to in the big leagues? Thanks for everything, Harry.
If he's a 5 hit tool with 5 power, he's the number 1 prospect in the system right now.
Probably.
If you're talking about a guy who's a 5.5 with a 7 glove, that's like a top 30 prospect in all of baseball.
Yeah, like, that sounds right.
I'm gonna go to Fangraphs because they're the easiest to look at and
although see if their tool grades this year. I'm comfortable saying this.
Yeah, they're weird.
Extremely disappointing. Well, they clearly didn't update them because there's a number of places where they just don't line up with the narrative.
So if we're talking about where's Field, a guy, they don't have a single, like Christian Pache is 74 and he's a 40 hit, 45 game power, 80 field. Like,
yeah. So Pache with a better bat, which is a top 50.
I mean, no, do you know who it is? Jeremy Pena. Jeremy Pena, they have 31st in their top 100. He's a 45.
This is so hit. For those who don't know, Jeremy Pena, shortstop for the Houston Astros, right?
Correct. They have 50 hit, 45 power, 60 glove, and he's the 31st ranked prospect in their top 100. Like if Rafael is a 50-50 guy, he's a top 20 prospect in all of baseball.
Yeah.
The odds of that are very low. But,
yeah. So that's why it's, we joke about what if this player was a much better player? Right. And
Yeah.
it's not I'm not belittling the question, but it's like, well, he'd be a much different player. Right.
Yeah.
That's,
I mean, yeah, like Oswald Peraza is 40th. He's 55, 50, 60. Like
right.
that's where you're talking about a top like 30, 20, 30, 40 prospect in all of baseball.
Yep.
But yeah, no, the biggest things for him is I think I want to see quality of at bats. He's pretty aggressive. He's still like, he doesn't see a lot of pitches. He doesn't walk at a high clip. Lot of in zone swing and miss, things like that. So it's just improving his pitch selection and just becoming more, just developing a better approach. That's, I think, the biggest things for him at the plate.
And our final question comes from Matt, frequent emailer Mad Dog, and he says, "Hello guys, I was wondering who you guys think goes down once the 28-man roster ends. It seems like Cutter Crawford and Ryan Brazier are obvious, but then you need a third for Josh Taylor. Could that spot maybe be Austin Davis? Thanks for all the content." I don't know that. I mean, look, if you're going to evaluate it based on how the past week has gone, then yeah, sure. But I don't think that's how they're going to evaluate it.
Well, I think they're going to,
depend.
I think they're going to try to not lose anyone though.
Yeah. So that's why I've said, I mean, we talked about this a little bit last episode. It's going to be guys with options.
Yeah. Which is, I mean, if it's guys with options, it's Brazier, it's
Crawford,
it's Valdez, or, I mean, I like him. He seems like a fun guy to have on the team. I don't know what the point of Salomore is on the Red Sox.
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't, they don't trust him clearly. Like he never pitches in a game that's in doubt. And like, there are certain games where it's like, he can't go multiple innings, or I guess he can. He's pitched two innings once, but like, he's not like a long man in the sense that you can throw him out there for 3-4 innings to kill a game off if you're getting killed. Like, I don't know what his role is on the Red Sox. And like, I wonder if that's something that gets discussed at some point because.
Well, he in theory has 3 options, but we don't know whether his contract says he can't be optioned.
Yeah. I was actually, the reason I said that was I was assuming he could be optioned, but if he can be, I don't know what because like, I just don't know how you can keep him over like Phillips Valdez right now. For example,
I don't think you can. I mean, Phillips Valdez is to go back on what we just said, a valuable middle reliever, right? Like,
yeah. I mean, Phillips Valdez he's 5 innings. He's given up 1 hit. He has 8 strikeouts, 1 walk. Like, I look at the team and I think Crawford might get optioned just because he's walking so many guys right now.
Yeah, I think he's pitching his way off the roster.
I don't think Brazier goes just because like that he's, they trust him still.
They're going to try and fix him first before they option.
Like I think it's Crawford and then it's one of Salomore or Valdez, but I don't know how you could keep Salomore over Valdez right now.
Mm-hmm. I think that's,
and then
right.
For Taylor, I mean, clearly they're going to push it to the end of it's. I think they said early May. For him, like, I don't know what they do. It's going to be interesting. Like, I guess Austin Davis would be the easy one, and he's been okay this year, not good, like not great. But I guess it would be Austin Davis, but you would lose him. So I would maybe it's both Salomore and like that's where the Brazier, Valdez debate comes in. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see what they do with that. But it will also and the flip side is though, once they're down back at 26, they'll actually have guys in AAA they can call up again. So that'll be good.
That's true. I mean, I'm looking at the leverage index on Fangraphs, which measures, the game situations that guys are coming into. Right. And so the one we want, I think, is PLI. And putting them in order. Yeah. Okay. This makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Sawamura has the lowest leverage index score of anybody in the bullpen by a pretty large amount. It's then Phillips Valdez, Austin Davis, Matt Barnes, which they got to figure out what the heck's up with Matt Barnes. But then you get into the top 6. It's Whitlock. This is going in reverse order. Whitlock, Crawford, Strahm, Ryan Brazier, Hansel Robles, Jake Diekman. Crawford is probably pitching his way down a little bit, but to me, the 3 that I look at are Crawford, Davis, Sawamura in some order as guys who might get removed. I don't know how it winds up working out for some, with the roster, but yeah, I mean, if you're going to add Taylor back, like we talked about, they're probably removing a lefty. They're not going to go to 4 lefties. So Davis is the one who gets removed because Strahm and Diekman aren't going anywhere.
Yeah, but the thing is, but then the flip side is though, if you do that with Davis, you're probably losing him. He's getting claims. So
I guess that's true. We'll see. Anyway, all right. So again, podcast at soxprospects.com. We want to talk about what you want to hear about. So hit us up. Game leverage index is the one from when they come in. But I mean, yeah, but everything I just said.
Well, doesn't Taylor have options?
Josh Taylor?
Yeah.
He does, but I mean, he was their top lefty last year. I don't know. I mean, I guess it'll depend on how he looks during his
He was also good in 2019. He was like their top lefty in 19 too.
Yeah, it depends how he looks during his rehab, probably, because they could.
He's also 29. I don't think that would go well.
What, optioning him?
No, that would sit well. That he'd be a 29-year-old like who's been in the big leagues for the last.
That's what I'm saying.
Yes, correct.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, let's wrap it up, Ian. Thank you all for listening. Thank you all for supporting the show on patreon.com and for rating and reviewing us on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen. And as always, we want to shout out our $5 level Patreon supporters. That's Kyle C., Tyler Woodrow, Jeff Trainer, David Nardone, Tim Harding, Bill Stanton, Deb Kendall, Evan Kirkwood, Hurricanes 1, Chris Fox, James O'Hara, Nathan Kenny, and Andrew Wallen, David B., Ben Burnett, Al Mendel, Kevin Catrides, Ben NRI, Paul Denyer, Lendl Martin, James P. McMahon, Stephen Gregory, James Bailey, Andreas Goldstrand, Corey Perrick, Forrest Perkins, Mark Herman, Aaron Meta, Jeff Harwood, Jimmy Mountain, Brian Cowan, Dusty G, Pavel, Jordan Shabbat, Jeffrey Scruggs, Nicholas Staropoli, Bob Introne, Mike Kawano, Chris Bollier, Curtis Waltman, Michael Stewart, Keith Fox, Caleb Farron, John Kane, Andrew K., Tim Ware, Michael Murphy, Kyle Sanborn, Jason Stoneburner, and our newest $5 level patron. I can speak, I swear. Jack Monahan. Thank you all for the support. You can follow us on Twitter. Follow Ian at Ian Cundall. That's IANCUNDALL. And follow me at SP Chris Hatfield. Follow the site on Twitter and Instagram at Sox Prospects. And I think that's everything. Yeah, hopefully Twitter still exists once Elon Musk buys it, Ian. But at any rate, at least we have the Instagram now in case that goes away. For Ian, I'm Chris. Thank you all for listening. We'll be back in your eardrums. We're going to try and get back into something of a weekly schedule here. So keep an eye out. We'll be back in your eardrums soon. Thanks for listening, everybody.